Earlier this week, Kiwanuka hosted a town hall with 3 of the 4 party leaders. Produced in partnership with the Laidlaw Foundation, the conversations focused on issues top of mind for Ontario youth. Let's have a look.
I work at a hospital. We have something called a code gridlock. For those here who don't know what that is, it's basically when you have a large influx of people coming into a hospital and the wait time from 3 to 4 to 5 hours extends to maybe 8 or 9. I work as a security officer, so I do like 12-hour shifts. So my question is simply, how are you going to reduce that wait time so we can, like if people are like barely surviving in the hospital, they go straight to the hallway, and then you have to wait so long just to come back in.
I didn't get your name, but I want to thank you very much.
Mohammed.
Mohammed, thanks, Mohammed, for the question. I appreciate it. That's a problem that's happening in many hospitals around the province, and it's unacceptable. I mean, people lined up on stretchers in hallways for hours and hours on end, right? With no dignity, with no privacy, with no nurse call bell, no availability for a washroom. And after 15 years of this government, that's what we've ended up with. They have frozen hospital budgets for years on end. They've increased budgets below inflation. Well, if you're not funding at least to inflation, then that means the hospital has to cut. So the cuts have been deep, and the results are clear, and it is just not right for folks like you in security who are trying to help with the flow. And when you go to the hospital, you're going to the hospital because you're not well, and your family members are there with you to provide you support. And if you're stuck in a hallway being jostled by other family members of other people who have come to hospital, I mean, the whole situation is something that just doesn't work for people anymore. It doesn't work for people at all. So we've got plans to fix it. We're going to fund hospitals to at least 5.3% each and every year to make sure that they are able to provide the care they need. We're going to prevent any further layoffs of frontline staff to make sure that we can get a handle on a proper human resources plan for our hospitals. No more laying off of nurses, no more laying off of frontline workers in the hospitals, because you can put people on a bed and on a stretcher in a hallway, but you know this, Mohammed, if you don't have the nurse to look after that person or a doctor to check in on them, then they're not going to get the quality of care that they deserve. So we have our platform's online, actually, if folks want to have a look, OntarioNDP.ca/platform. All of our plans are in there. The other thing, just really quickly, not every community is the same. Right? We have some communities where the population is growing, like crazy. Places like Brampton, for example. And then we have other communities like Northern Ontario, where the population is maybe not growing, but aging at a much higher rate because young people are coming down south and more of the population is elderly. Or in some communities, like Sioux Lookout, for example, and Thunder Bay and Kenora, people come in from what they call come in from the bush. So First Nations communities come in from some of the remote areas to get service. So it's a different need for that hospital than it is for, Toronto General, for example. And so we would fund hospitals to meet the needs, the unique circumstances and needs of the communities that they serve.
Anine, my name is Shanice Steele. I have a question for you specifically around Indigenous youth. So as you know, the Human Rights Commissioner found that racism towards Indigenous people in Timmins, Ontario was pervasive. We know about the racism in Thunder Bay. Unfortunately, a lot of Indigenous youth have to travel several hours to go to these cities in order to get an education. What are you going to do to ensure that our Indigenous youth are safe when they arrive there? Because unfortunately, several of our youth have ended up dead being in these cities. And so if racism is pervasive, what are you doing to support these youth while there, while also calling out police forces that are also racist while in these cities?
Thank you for the question, and we have worked very closely with First Nations communities, with the school authorities on reserve, and also with school boards and schools in communities. And we've actually put more resources into the schools to help with those transitions. I really worry about young people who are coming off reserve into town and they don't have the supports that they need. I was just in Kenora last week, and I was meeting with the Director of Education there, and we're actually funding extra supports, extra people, advisors, to actually help kids when they come into Kenora or into Sioux Lookout to make that transition. We're also working with First Nations because there are situations where First Nations, if they can have more support on reserve, the kids can stay on reserve longer and get more of their education on reserve before they leave the community. And I think that's one of the solutions, and we're working with First Nations on that. The other thing that we have done is we have actually signed agreements with a couple of the tribal councils, a couple of the groups of First Nations to change the model so that right now, as you know, the responsibility for education on reserve is federal, and that's not working. It hasn't worked. It's a real problem because there's underfunding that happens as compared to provincial education. So we have worked with First Nations to, and not all yet, but with groups of First Nations to sign new agreements so that the First Nation, the federal government, and the provincial government work together, and the funding can increase, and the resources in the provincial education system can actually be at the hands of the First Nations, because the whole issue of self-government and self-determination around education is really, really important in this discussion. It's not okay for the provincial government to just say, oh, well, we'll just draw up the curriculum and we'll just put our resources into First Nations education. It has to be a partnership. And so the resources that we're putting in place are about making sure that the curriculum is what it needs to be according to First Nations, making sure that the extra supports that are in place are culturally appropriate, and that, for example, we are recognizing and funding Aboriginal Technical Institutes as a separate post-secondary institution. They've never been recognized or funded in that way before, and so that gives young people, young Indigenous people, another alternative. So we're working on a lot of fronts to really redo the way education works for Indigenous youth in Ontario. The final thing I will say is the Anti-Racism Directorate that has been set up specifically to make sure that, yes, we deal with anti-Black racism, we deal with Islamophobia, and we deal with anti-Indigenous racism as well. And so we need the data to make sure that we're putting the right supports in place to protect young people particularly.
Hi, my name is Cheyenne Rutnam from Away Home Toronto. And in terms of my question, it's really about newcomers, people without status in the province of Ontario, especially in times of xenophobia. A lot of the times we're talking about affordability of housing, etc. However, there's hidden homelessness in the city of Toronto, but also provincially. And so my question is, how would you work with different municipalities to make sure that, just like Hamilton and Toronto being a sanctuary city, the province becomes a sanctuary province so that people can access services to better their lives and to take care of their mental health, etc.?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we should be a sanctuary province. And one of the most important ways in which we can reduce the gap is to end the 3-month wait period for access to OHIP. I think if you're a resident of Ontario, you should have access to our healthcare system. And that particularly disproportionately affects new Canadians, but it also affects migrant farm workers, temporary workers, and a whole host of others who contribute to our province and should have access to the benefits of living in Ontario and contributing to Ontario. I believe that housing affordability, one of the reasons that I want to invest so much in housing affordability is so that whether you're a longtime resident or a new resident of Ontario, you have an affordable place to call home. And the final thing I would say is that we need more training in our schools, in our police services, in our social services, to make sure that all government service providers have anti-racism training, so they know how to interact with new Canadians in ways that are respectful and ensure that everyone is treated with dignity.
I just wanted to follow up on that. So you believe that Ontario should be a sanctuary province?
Absolutely.
Some people might think that's a bit
too
controversial
generous.
to say.
That is a bit controversial, absolutely. But you know what? we have said that we are a welcoming country and a welcoming province. And you know, in the darkness that exists in some parts of the world, particularly to the south of us right now, having a place of hope for people is going to be critically important. And I think it's actually going to become even more important as the climate crisis creates more climate refugees. And the bottom line is we're a wealthy society. We have a lot of land mass here. We have a lot of access to fresh water. And we are going to have to be one of the world's welcoming places.
The Agenda with Steve Bacon is brought to you by the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario, helping businesses stay on the right side of change with strategic thinking, insightful decisions, and business leadership. Are you on the right side of change? Ask an Ontario CPA.